Welcome to the Safeguarding and Domestic Abuse sector for professionals working in the world of safeguarding and domestic abuse, and for anyone who believes in harnessing the power of sector-led learning and improvement. The conversation unfolds week by week, season by season. In this space, expect to hear me talk about this work which has the ability to change lives, alongside having powerful conversations with those who are taking action and can inspire us on our learning and improvement journey. This is the Safeguarding and Domestic Abuse sector. Hi, and welcome to today's broadcast. I began 2025 by saying every review should be paying attention to the Think Family agenda. And what a year we have had for this. It's at last beginning to receive the attention it deserves. Green shoots are emerging, yet there's a long, long way to go, and it's too much to capture in one single discussion today. So I propose that we chip away at this discussion each week. Because for me, currently, in the way that I see our systems and realistic pace of systems change, it does at the moment feel right that we have services who serve children and services who serve adults. Now, that is notwithstanding the clear requirement for some posts to not be separated between children and adults. So I'm just going to stick with service design currently, and what could be seen as a clear trajectory for realistic change currently. Now, so here we are. I'm saying it here and now. I think for the current time, we should maintain having services who serve children and services who serve adults. And the reason for that is that I see and I acknowledge the grit, the determination, and the passion that practitioners demonstrate for protecting and supporting either the adult or the child, and for working to capture their voice. And in my opinion, each needs its own champion. Otherwise, we risk a dilution. Now, having said all that, I'm kind of here still, daily, weekly, speaking about my frustration and confusion time and time again by the system around a family. And I will use a family example now, so in which there is a non-engaging father who is the perpetrator of domestic abuse, yet the focus of assessment is on the mother. Now, the voice of the child also will often get lost in the complexity of this situation, and it seems that perpetrator work rarely gets off the ground where we have the non-engaging father figure. Then, compounding this, we find that so often criminal justice outcomes are hard to pursue, probably due to fear of giving statements. And that's notwithstanding that I recognise the push by most forces who are locally pushing to achieve more and more evidence-led prosecutions. So work is underway, and again, we have a long way to go. Also, we still face systemic barriers to what we really need. So, in reviews, in learning and improvement work, we are often asking for the mapping of patterns of behaviour rather than being incident-led in our services and our interventions. But there are clear systemic barriers to that behaviour and that practice as well. And perhaps that's not for today's conversation, perhaps it's for another day. But when we don't have these pathways and these systems and frameworks around that behavior where we can stand back and map patterns, alongside the fact that our current system also lacks clear pathways within which the non-engaging and abusive parent continues to be assessed, what we're failing to do is hold that non-engaging parent to high child-centered standards for change. And you may well have seen the work, for instance, of David Mandel, who is the author of a book that I will reference as well as part of this broadcast. And having said all of that, I don't want to leave us here. So having identified what's not working, I also want to take the time to celebrate that 3 weeks ago, the Ministry of Justice issued a press release stating its intention to repeal the presumption of parental involvement enshrined in the Children Act 1989. Now, being the age that I am, I was a practitioner when the Children Act 1989 came in, and such a groundbreaking piece of legislation. And it became the framework, and it felt groundbreaking and new. However, for a long time, there has been research undertaken into whether this presumption should now be repealed. We don't know how this is going to be interpreted. If it's interpreted as we hope it will be, children who are exposed to the family courts should be able to receive protection from harm, because the government is recognising and has compiled a list of evidence, including new evidence, that suggests prioritising contact can perpetuate child abuse in the worst cases. So I want these broadcasts to focus, certainly initially in our first weeks, on talking about what more the Plan for Change initiative really achieves to protect children, as well as standing up for victims. And there's a long way to go for faith to be fully restored, of course, in the justice system. We'll talk about that too, and how people feel about using and exploiting the roots that are held within the justice system, because we know what the barriers can look like. So as a collective, and those who are keenly watching this, particularly in the world of learning improvement work, we're looking for more to be done to put victims first and to ensure that the protection of children isn't compromised. But what we know thus far is that if parents are thought to be a threat to their child's safety, involvement in their lives under this repeal, under what this is going to look like, will be able to be restricted, for example, through the courts ordering supervised contact, or deeming that involvement should be limited to written communication, or that the court should be able to order that there be no involvement at all. And I want to keep this conversation alive. So I would love for you to let me know, tell me how this is affecting you or your work, and where you want to see this go. So that is the discussion that I'm opening with you today.
Thank you for joining me for this bite-sized episode designed to update you with the latest thinking and developments in learning and improvement work in the safeguarding and domestic abuse sector. If you're interested in independent review work, which has the power to improve the lives of vulnerable people, join me for my on-demand webinar, How to Establish an Independent Review Practice which aligns with the next steps in your career. You can find the link in the show notes.